So you know how at the end of the service, the end of the celebration, I have the practitioners come up here. They go through 6 classes, and before they can even start practitioner training, which is then 2 years. And I'm in the midst of teaching a practitioner class right now. And this week's lesson was on belonging. And it really struck me about belonging. And it talked a lot about feeling like an outsider, and I have, since as far back as I can remember, until recently, felt like an outsider, like I didn't fit in anywhere. As a kid, in fact, my first friends I really ever made was my senior year in high school. Those guys are still my friends. But up until that point, I didn't know how to get along with people. I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. I certainly didn't feel like I belonged at home. I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. I didn't know where to go, what to do. Got out into the world and just became this rebel who then decided for myself I was not going to fit in anywhere. Maybe I'm not the only one. Or you had a similar experience, but your decision was to become a people pleaser and somehow figure out how to fit in. They're both saying it's 2 sides of the same coin, and they both can leave you feeling like you're alone, even when you're surrounded by a bunch of people. Have you ever had that experience? Being surrounded by people and yet feeling alone. And so we come here, to create community. And the thing about the only way to do that is if everybody participates. The thing that I can do is bring an audience, but I can't create community. Only you guys can do that. And how we interact. And so we have at the beginning of the service that thing where we do 5 minutes of finding somebody you don't know or you don't know well. We have people here who've been coming for weeks who still feel like they haven't connected with folks. And the only ones who can do that is more others of you connecting with each other. Right? Because that's how we create community. That's how we create a feeling of belonging, and that's how we create someplace that is safe and loving and beautiful for all of us. That's how we do it, is by being there with each other in that. And so I go along in life and I think, and I started going to a Center for Spiritual Living in Asheville. And to keep myself separate, I immediately started volunteering, and it wasn't long before I became the music director there, because I'm pretty good at music. Put together a pretty good band. We were rocking. It was a great band. I mean, these guys are great too. This is a great band too. I love our band. And every time the service was over, got out of there so fast that people's heads spun because they'd want to connect with me, but I wasn't up for that. Even though I was in community, I was still separate from it. Because it really takes the internal shift to want to be a part of community. Or what happens is you just feel like you're alone, surrounded by people, even if they feel loving. So in this course, as we were reading the material, it was talking about all the things that practitioners and people can do to help create a safe space. And what occurred to me is you can create the safest space in the world, but if you're somebody who isn't ready to connect with that space, well, then it's on you. Because everybody who walks in here tells me how loving it feels and how beautiful it feels. And so there's this, we create space, and then you as an individual have to find your courage to take a risk to connect with that space. Otherwise, you can be like I have for had been for many years, feeling very alone and an outsider inside a loving community. So then I become a minister, and I go to Burbank. Now I'm the guy who's supposed to create community, and I still felt like an outsider. And it was there that I started to realize that I hadn't made that shift yet. And so for 3 years, the place didn't grow. It hardly budged. Of course, because its spiritual leader wasn't connected to the community. And so that's where I had to realize my shift, where I needed to change, where I needed to become somebody who actually felt like they belonged. Because you can be anywhere and feel like you belong if you're somebody who is allowing that openness of heart, willing to take that risk. Or you're not, and then you feel separate. Each of us has that choice, and we're making it all the time. Every day, how do we connect? How do we open? How do we take responsibility for ourselves in being that person that is open to connecting? So we have this time at the beginning of the service where I ask you to speak to somebody you may not know or may not know well and create conversation. And I just use the conversation opener, what brought you here, and telling them what brought you here. But when, I can only invite you to do it, it's up to you to actually take the step. A lot of folks tend to be drawn to the same people they know really well already. Right? Remember the cliques in high school? Somebody once said to me, life isn't like college. Life is like high school. And I noticed that. The cliques that, everybody, and they happen because we're drawn to people who are like us. Except to have a true, diverse, and loving and big community, you got to be willing to approach people who are not like you at all. And ask them what brought them here. Because you'll find that what brought them here is probably similar to what brought you here. But the only way you're going to know that is if you go up to, instead of going to the same folks who you go up to every week, who you already know really well, stretch a little bit. Stretch a little bit, right? The yoga stretch I've talked to you folks about before, of you go into your stretch and smile. If you can't smile, back up a little bit. So you do it at a pace that works for you. But can you see where I'm going here? A lot of folks don't wait to show up to after we've started so they don't have to deal with all that stuff. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Well, maybe one Sunday, come a little earlier to have an opportunity to stretch yourself. Because in doing so, you deepen your belonging as well as supporting somebody else in deepening theirs. Right? It goes two ways. When we stretch, we deepen our own connection with life itself, with the people here. But then when and this is a really safe space to do it, right? And so you come here and you try this stretch, and then you notice that maybe you can do it outside of here because now you've gained that little bit of extra courage. We have this team here called the Compassionate Care Team. And I think there's about 16 people on it at this point. And their job is to support the community in any way they need. There's practitioners on that. There's people who have all different kinds of skills. It's run by Ash and Catherine. And so if you're looking for support, these are the two you'd approach. If you want to join that team, these are the two that you'd approach. And they're the team that is the glue to supporting. And a lot of folks, we are very independent people. Or is that just me? And so asking for support, for help, isn't always all that easy, and yet it is a tremendous way to be part of a community. Because anytime you ask for support, you're doing the person you're asking support from a favor. You think you're getting the favor by asking for support. No, you're doing them the favor by giving them you're giving them the gift of trust to be able to connect and be with you that way. So when you ask for support, it is a very deep connecting thing because it makes both of you vulnerable. Can you see that? And so that's a very powerful thing and deepens belonging. Because I don't know about you, but now that I'm in a space of not feeling like an outsider anymore, now that I'm in a space of feeling like I belong, it feels so darn good. All through me, I can feel it. I can feel how wonderful it is to go up and get hugs and know people and get to know people more and learning about, how all our lives. That's why I invite Ash and we invite you guys to call us and let us take you, go have coffee together and get to know each other even more. And now I'm hearing that you guys are doing that with each other, and that's just fantastic. Because it's not about me. It's not about Ash. It's about all of you and how we connect with each other and the bonds so that we can count on each other and support each other and grow with each other. So after Burbank, I went to Asheville. And after went back to being the music director in Asheville. And what I noticed is I still felt like an outsider, and that's where I really saw that I did that. I did that. All these people who remembered me from when I was music director, I wasn't close with a single one of them. And I did that because they were good people. They would have loved to connect with me. I remember, it got me remembering all the invitations that I had turned down to getting together. Tons of them. And the result of that was feeling like an outsider. Now that I was beginning to shift, I could really feel it. And so that was a big deal for me when I came here, to make sure that a lot of the leadership around here thinks that, the social hour thing and the 5 minute before is just brilliant ideas, And actually, they were my own savior. They were my way of being able to connect with you. That I just wanted any opportunity I could because I wanted to feel like I belonged. And now that I do feel that so deeply, I want that for all of you. I want that for anybody who walks through these doors, to know how deeply and understand how wonderful everybody else in here is, the like-mindedness. And so we have that. That's what's here. And it takes all of us to continually reach out to somebody. And if all you're doing is reaching out to somebody you already know really well, that is really not helping build the kind of community that everybody says they want. So I invite you to take the time in the social hour today and each week to find somebody you don't know or don't know well and get to know them better, especially if they seem really different from you. That would be the best. the more we could reach out to people who are like completely, I mean, we don't think we have anything in common with. Or am I the only one who feels like there are people I don't have anything in common with? And learn, because there's going to be something there. And some of you are not going to believe this, but I was a very shy guy at one time. It's true. It's really true. I was very shy at one point. Always loud and boisterous, but shy. And I know it may be difficult to see that those things can go together, but you're looking at it. And so that was my first place of beginning to learn courage. Beginning to learn that even if I was sweating, even if I was just pouring sweat, that it was worth it to reach out to somebody else. As scary as it was. Nobody likes feeling rejected. But you're not going to find a safer space than this. To give it a try. To reach out a little more than maybe you have up to now to somebody you don't know or don't know well. That's what's possible here as we grow this community. And so this kind of growth, right, starts here. Who am I being? It always comes back to the same thing. Every week I tell you the same thing. It always comes back to who I'm being. Because there's a couple of things about this. One thing I've noticed is that there are certain people, not everybody, but certain people who, when they are working on being authentic, want everybody around them to behave in a way that allows for their authenticity, even if it doesn't allow for their own. They want a safe space for them, even if it makes it less safe for somebody else. That's the funniest part about authenticity is we have got to. One thing that I've learned about that, let me put it that way, is that when I am authentic, sometimes it pisses people off. And what I've learned is that that's their authentic reaction, and they get to have it. They get to be authentic too, even if it's a reaction that feels very rejecting to me. Yeah. They get to have that. And so that's part of creating safe space, is understanding that somebody else's authenticity may not be in aligned with yours and still gets to have it. When how do we breathe into that? How do we breathe into somebody else doing something that we don't like? So Ash and I, we're down in Puerto Vallarta. It's our anniversary week. And we are partying all week. We're having a great time. Friday was our actual anniversary day. And on Friday, Ash has been making friends with this cat all week and decides that what she wants to do on Friday is go get food for this cat, is focused on this cat on our anniversary. And I could feel myself, right, starting to get hurt feelings, getting pissed off. I could feel all that starting. What do you mean on our anniversary you want to focus on this darn cat? In the past, there would have been a time where I would have blown up that day, where it would have just gone south from there, and we would have had the worst day. But this time, I'm like, okay, this is where she's being authentic right now. Am I going to be a big enough person to allow for this? Who am I being in this? So I calmed myself down, said, okay, I want to be who I want to, that person I want to be in this. Walked around with her. We finally found some cat food. fed the darn cat. She was very happy, and we had an amazing rest of the day. Now, how does that story relate to this? It relates because we need to allow in community for others that may disagree with us about what needs to be done, what happens next, or how things are going, and be open to the fact that maybe both can work. Maybe both can work in ways that we can't even see at first. But when we focus on who we're being, that's our best bet on having the day, this community, and everything open up lovely, beautiful, to its highest and best. That's what's possible when we take responsibility for ourselves and care enough about the community to take that responsibility into it. Are you willing to stretch with me in this? Are you willing to stretch with me in this? I'm still not. Are you willing? Are only like 10 of you willing? Are you willing to stretch with me in this? Now we're talking. Thank you. I love you so much.